listening to the Ataaso Outdoors Podcast.
Do.
You sound good.
I've been a little sick lately.
You had a lot of bass.
Yeah, I've been feeling good. And
sexy.
On the back end, it's been doing like wonders for my voice.
Super sexy.
Do you remember the night that my dad came down in here and was talking, and he was sitting in that corner, and like his voice just boomed in here?
Is that where you knew the acoustics were just going to be?
Well, we were talking about
fire?
it the other day, and I was just like, Dad, I don't know how you get that deep, but I hope my voice continues to drop to that point. It'd be dope. Because when I was young, I grew fast. I grew tall quickly. So I was like 6'3", but my voice hadn't dropped yet. So it was like kind of goofy. Or was this tall kid with like a super high pitched voice running around? It wasn't good. It was really bad.
Outside of sounding like you're sick all the time.
Yeah. But anyways.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Ataaso Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Caleb. I'm joined today by Reed Robinson, one of our co-hosts.
Howdy.
And Hunter Grishke is not here this evening. Tonight's actually a big deal after many failure to launch, plural.
Yeah.
We officially have cameras rolling for like the third time.
I thought you were referencing our failure to launch and like our conquest of doe this year has just been abysmal.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. I've got several families that have been trying to get does, and it's driving me nuts because like I'm not getting any opportunities. And it seems like the doe population is taking care of itself.
It does seem that way because everybody's talking about like, we'll kill more doe this year. And we're like, all right, we're gung-ho. We're lining up people that are willing to take venison, and we're like gung-ho to do it. And then we go out and hunt and just not seeing doe.
There was like a 4 or 5 day stretch where all I saw was bucks.
Mm-hmm. Just
abnormal.
Yeah, the last few times that I've been out, probably $1.50 for every doe that I see, if not $2 for every doe. I mean, just seeing a ridiculous amount this year. All pretty small, but just a lot. It's been wild.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Guys, today is an emergency press conference.
We're going to skip the intro altogether. We do What You Got, Buddy, head-to-head, and Spotlight Series.
I might have to like push the microphone away from my face a little bit for this one, but
you're a little upset.
Stop killing small deer. With the caveat, if you want to shoot an 8.5-year-old buck that is a forky because that's what he's downgraded to, that's perfectly acceptable. But guys, people complain about there not being big bucks in Michigan. And then social media right now, between Facebook, Instagram, everything, and this is all people I know. These social media feeds are littered with people killing 1.5 to 2.5-year-old bucks.
And I haven't even hopped on Michigan Buck Poll yet, like on Facebook, to see what's going on.
Well, at least Michigan Buck Poll only shares like decent. What I would consider a mature deer. Like they'll share 3.5 plus.
Yeah, they'll share decent deer, and then they'll share a lot of kids with deer, which is pretty fun.
Okay, here's my caveat. If I see a kid with like a 1.5-year-old 8-point buck, and that is that is their first deer, or like first buck, I'm okay with it. Like that is where you kind of get the bug.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But I am seeing full-grown ass adults with sitting behind 1.5-year-old 8 points, and I've had conversations with 2 people this week where I'm showing pictures of the deer that we're passing on here. And they're like, wow, people like you drive me nuts. And I'm like,
what?
I'm like, why? He's like, because it's just like the message that you're preaching just isn't possible for everyone. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, if we get like a nice 2.5-year-old buck at our property, if I don't shoot him, the neighbor's going to shoot him. And I think that is the stupidest argument. It's like, I don't care. So what if the neighbor shoots him?
Right.
You didn't. So why are you going to shoot a 1.5-year-old to 2.5-year-old buck that is small, and then under the guise of, hey, my neighbor's just going to shoot it anyway. It's a dead deer anyway, so I might as well take it. What a waste.
Where do you think the cutoff is, though? Because, like, how many inches does it have to be before you think it starts to become a waste?
I think a deer needs to be like 100+ inches.
Yeah.
I think there should be, and the tough thing is there's no way to like actually regulate that and put that in force,
right,
because you can't score a deer on hoof.
Right.
To me, the most ideal way to do it would be to enforce an APR on both sides.
Yeah. Well, what about the... yeah.
But here's the thing. An APR on both sides would, like, every once in a while, yes, you have a rare 6.5-year-old deer or a 5.5-year-old deer that has 5 points on one. Like, how many times have you ever seen a 5x2 or a 5x3?
Yeah, no,
like,
never.
It just doesn't exist. So if you have a big, ginormous 7-point that walks by, it's got, if it's got 4 points on one side and 3 points on the other side,
mm-hmm,
a deer might turn into a massive 10-point the next year. So you're going to let them walk. People can still kill a small 8-point if they want, but it's going to eliminate people killing spikes, forks, all these small deer.
Okay, so what about the guy that is a meat hunter and he's like, oh, you can't eat the horns, so it doesn't matter.
Then shoot a doe.
Yeah, okay, but like, what about you? You've gone all spring or all fall, and you haven't had an opportunity to shoot a doe. And how many sits have you had? I'm for you in this. I think you're right. I think we need to manage our deer.
I've sat quite a few times, and I haven't had a chance to shoot a doe. I personally think shooting bucks is easier than shooting does, especially this time of year.
Oh yeah, during the rut for sure.
Because doe are just on edge. Now, late doe season, okay. Are you starving? Like that would be my question for them. Like, do you not know where your next meal is going to come from? Do you have the ability to go to the grocery store? Do you have to, is it a complete necessity to the survival of your family to shoot this 4-point buck that's in front of you right now?
I'm thinking about the guy that goes out hunting maybe once or 3 times a year. He grabs his rifle and he goes and like does the annual deer camp. And he's like, yeah, I'm going for meat. And if it's got antlers on it, cool, it's a buck. And if it's like a doe, then whatever. But like, given the opportunity to shoot a doe or a buck in the field, all they want is a deer, they're going to take the buck. Right? I still don't like it. I would say take the doe.
What kind of like legitimate restrictions can be put on it? Because like, if you were to sit that guy down and like, there is a certain percentage that might not care at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's perfectly okay. If that's just not your jive, then you shouldn't be shooting bucks anyway. That's my thing with it. Like, there should be some kind of, I've completely lost my train of thought there.
You're a little fired up.
It's just, to me, it's a lack of, okay, here's my argument. If say for instance you take that deer camp guy.
Yeah.
And you say, if a 6-point walks in front of you on opening day of deer camp, and you only have 1 buck tag, but you know that on that farm, wherever you're doing deer camp at, that there's a 15-point somewhere, what's the likeliness that he's actually going to pull the trigger on that 6-point on the first day of deer camp?
That's a good point. I think that would definitely separate the boys from the men, because there's still going to be the guy that sees that 6-point or that forky or whatever it is, gets so fired up that he just pulls the trigger.
Right, and there's nothing you can do about that. But I think there is and that might be 15% of the demographic. I think there's another.
Oh, I don't know.
There's another 80%, 85% of the population that if you were to stand a 15-point or a really nice mature 10-point in front of them and a fork, you say choose which one you'd rather shoot. They're going to point at the 10-point all day.
Yeah.
Okay. So at what point do these dumbasses snap out of it and realize that 6 point that you're killing will turn into that 10 point within a 3-year period.
But same scenario where it's like you go hunting once a year or maybe 3 times a year, whatever it ends up being. And it's like you have a doe and a buck in a field and they're in front of you. And it's like, you have your like 1 or 2 sits that you're going to have. And you have the decision to either shoot a small 6 point or a doe. And it's like, same scenario, just like you just drop down.
But I just try to understand where the sense of pride comes from shooting a small 6 point.
No, I don't know if there is. I think the sense of pride, well, I do know where the sense of pride comes from. It's like, well, I shot a buck. Everybody likes to shoot a buck, right? It's like the pinnacle of hunting. It doesn't really matter, and you can say like, oh yeah, I shot a 6 point, and like you can still kind of get away with it, right?
I'd be embarrassed to hang something like that on my wall.
Right. Yeah, no, like I wouldn't. But you also like you think about like you go into those old barns. Like I go into my grandpa's shop. My grandpa shot some beautiful deer over the years. We were in his place last night, and he's got this shoulder mount of this buck that I'm just like, holy cow. Just some gorgeous deer. And he's got like some old like skull cap and like this
that
is
are just laying on the workbench, right?
Well, no, he's got them all like tacked up on the wall really nice, but there's a lot of small deer up on the wall, and you can see like throughout the years, you can see his life of hunting throughout the years as the buck get bigger throughout the years because he started getting more selective. But early on, like it was just like small antler, like forky, spike, 4 point, small 6 point, little 8 point. Like he had a bunch of those. But then later on in life, as he kind of got more accustomed and didn't have to just shoot to eat, because that's what it was. He was shooting to eat.
Right, but we just don't, plain and simple, we don't have that problem these days that they did in the 40s and 50s.
That's true, but what you have is an old guard that is still hunting that taught the next generation to do that as well. I don't know.
It's not even that, though. Like,
you don't think so?
No, because I'm not going to name names, but there is a specific person I know of that takes all of his kids hunting. He doesn't hunt himself, but he sits in the blind with all of his kids, and he's in the boomer generation.
Yeah.
Or maybe even younger. He might be like late Gen X.
Okay.
And all of his kids are shooting small bucks. And this is not like, let me read this for you. So this is.
Okay, here's the thing though. Would you rather have that guy or no hunting at all? Like no hunters? Because, like, once again, I feel like I'm playing devil's advocate like tonight.
For me,
but I'm just like, all of a sudden, I'm starting to break down and rationalize why all these small deer are dying.
I think it's a lack of education on the part of the older generation.
Mm-hmm.
They are not properly understanding. They might not care. They might not give 2 rips about big deer. But the amount of times I've heard people say, Michigan doesn't got big bucks.
Yeah.
But if you look at the case study of Indiana, that in 1 year, the scale flipped.
Right.
Illinois, Ohio, Iowa, Kansas. I don't think people realize that Michigan's habitat that we have here
phenomenal
is probably the best whitetail habitat anyone can ask for.
In the United States, Michigan has the best whitetail habitat.
Better than Kansas, better than Iowa. For people to say Michigan just doesn't have big bucks it's an ignorant statement, because the reason Michigan doesn't have big bucks is solely on the shoulders of the hunter.
Correct.
And it is the lack of conservation, the lack of the mindset of conservation and management being passed down from the generations to generations. Let me read this for you. So this is
go ahead.
This was a Facebook post. I'm going to read this to you blind, and you give me your opinion on it. So tiny, probably a year and a half, 7 point. Very pleased to have shot my first buck yesterday night. I was very fortunate to get one on my first try from 60 yards and no prior training shooting the crossbow. It was very hard for me to watch him die slowly. but I'm grateful for the shot. It is a good reminder that to live, something else must die. It's hard to know I ended the deer's life, but it's encouraging to know that it will feed many for days to come. All in all, I'm pretty exciting, and I hope to continue deer hunting this season.
Thoughts?
Okay, so I'm going to break it down into 5 things. Or do you want you give your thoughts first?
Yeah, let me give my 2 sides to it. 1, welcome to deer hunting. I'm like glad you're here, and good on you for getting a deer. Like, that's great. You got the bug. You're in. The crossbow served its purpose of getting somebody into hunting as an entry tool to make it easier. What I don't like, once again, is I feel like they get this false sense of how hunting actually goes, where it's like you went out your first time and you just put down a deer. And I get that. First time using a crossbow, okay, fine, whatever. But your first time going out and like getting your first deer, that's permissible for a small deer in my book. I'm like, that works. You know, the first buck I shot, small 6 points.
Absolutely. Yeah, same for me. It was a small 8.
Yeah. And what's frustrating, what's hard for me is hearing with no practice or no prior experience and watching the deer die slowly. There's a couple things here. Not a great shot, probably. Like, if you actually watched the deer die.
He spined him.
Okay.
And didn't have the education enough to know that you had to put a second arrow in it, which falls Here's the thing. That falls completely on the shoulders of the adult that was with him. And
this is a younger kid?
He's like 25.
Oh.
But his dad is with him.
Oh.
And his dad takes all the other kids out hunting. So
what's the dad's role? He just likes to sit and watch deer die? He gets off on that?
I don't know. I really don't know, but like let me
not bash him too much, because like I appreciate the fact that he's taking his kids out and hunting.
Yes, it's cool. It's great. It's great to build memories and everything.
That's good. But like, you need,
homie, you've got he's got to learn some stuff before he's taking green people into a blind. Like,
right.
here's my 5-point breakdown to this. I was very fortunate to get one from the first try at 60 yards. Why are you taking a 60-yard crossbow shot when you have never fired a weapon before? That's strike number 1 on Dad for not at least getting that weapon in the person's hand prior and shooting at a bag one time. He admitted to no prior training. Strike 1.
Yep.
Shot him. He watched the deer die slowly. Spined the deer. Strike 2.
Can you see in the picture like it's a spine shot?
No, Strike 3, they suck at taking pictures. Strike 2 is the spine spot, because he watched. That's the only logical shot on a deer where you'd be able to watch it die slowly.
Yes.
There's no other shot. If you shoot it in the gut, it's gonna run. If you shoot it in the ass, it's gonna run. If you shoot it in the shoulder, it's gonna run.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got to be a spine shot to where it fell down and you watch it die slowly. So that's strike 2. Strike 3 is the dad did not have the education or the wherewithal to say, hey, let's reload the crossbow and finish this deer's life quickly.
Yep.
And ethically. So, like, this is a problem.
Well,
the lack of education between that and just.
Did you read the comments underneath that?
I didn't want to.
I know that's going to be a brutal.
Like, I think it was probably just a bunch of people like, oh, congratulations, that's great, and everything like that.
What's concerning to me is the way this person promoted it, saying, and once again, I want to make sure I'm not just bashing everybody on this. Bash the people that are shooting small bucks that don't need to be shooting small bucks. But like this person, your first deer, I'm totally fine with that. Absolutely. We just already established that, like, we both shot for small deer for our first deer. What's frustrating or hard for me to hear is the way they promoted it. Like, I watched it die slowly, and it was hard to, like, take its life and this, and it's like all true things.
Yeah.
But what you did is just invited everybody in your life in on this gruesome, like really gruesome way to harvest a deer.
That's the kind of stuff that gives hunting a bad rep. It's
Correct.
Just like,
and so
this guy climbed in a box blind with a crossbow, didn't even practice, shot a deer at 60 yards, and then watched it die slowly. Like, awesome, great, love hunters.
Right.
That animal suffered for 4, 5, 6 minutes, however long it was, maybe more.
Right. And it's a bummer for me to hear that because they're promoting it in such a really tough light, where when you walk up on a deer like that instantaneously, like out of sorrow and guilt, like you put another arrow in the deer, like good shot, and you just take care of it. And like, that's not something that you want to promote. Like I've seen people post videos of them putting arrows in deer that are down. I'm like, dude, don't show us that. Nobody wants to see that.
I rarely see that.
I've seen it, like, I've seen people post it before, and they're like, oh, yeah, whatever, dude. And I'm like, dude, you guys suck. Like,
I rarely see that. Usually, like, it goes, like, you hear the shot, but it pans away. But the thing is, like, I watch guys scramble. When they spine a deer, they are practically falling out of the tree trying to get another arrow out of their quiver to, like, quickly get another arrow in this deer. Like, that's the ethical way to do it.
Mm-hmm. And when you got a pin cushion a deer, I've been fortunate enough so far to not have to do that. But I have had to take 2 shots on a deer before. Well, once again, my first buck. I spined my first buck, and I felt terrible about it. Put a second shot in it right away. And when you do that, it's like, there is this guilt, but you never promote it. You never like, oh, yeah, and I had to shoot him like 4 times. It's just like, I ended up getting it done, but it was tough.
Yeah, not the way it should have gone.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that's a side note. Like, it is a lack of education that people are dealing with, because it's like, hey, there's a better way to approach all of that. You can still post and say like, hey, super excited that I got my first deer. Took a shot. It was like a long shot, and like, had whatever, however you end up going about it, like you can promote it better than to welcome people in on this like sorrowful trail of how this deer died.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this person for getting their first deer, and especially like going out on a first sit and getting
good cool. For them. Good for them. But they now have a completely tainted view
and that
of
was
hunting.
My next point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you don't just go out, sit and shoot every time.
But that's their mindset now. Right. From here on out, until somebody like us sits them down and be like, listen, you're doing this backwards. This is all wrong.
I took my hunter safety course with a kid. His name was Alex Rowe, and he and I like came up underneath the same mentor. And Jeff took both him and I out on separate occasions. I went out with Jeff, and we sat up in a stand, and I shot underneath my first buck. First night, buck came in, he stopped it, shot underneath it, missed the deer. Alex went out that, like, following couple weeks later, maybe, had a gorgeous 8-point walk in front of him, and he poked it and killed it. It was like, boom, over. And to my knowledge, like, I don't know if Alex hunts anymore, because I think like he went out a couple times and just sat and got some nice deer, but it was all just like this instant satisfaction. And I think like once it started getting challenging, I don't think he was in it as much. But whereas with me, like, this is not necessarily the reason why I'm still into hunting, but that missing that deer gave me such a fire to be like, oh, I have to do this. Like, I got to get back out. I got to practice more. I got to get on deer better. I got to be a better shot. I got to be like more intentional with my ranging.
It's a lot like Justin Harches said, though, when he was here. He had that doe right away, and he let her walk because he didn't want it to be that easy.
Such good foresight.
Takes a lot of discipline, too.
Yeah.
A lot of discipline. So, I feel like from an education standpoint, certain generations have maybe, and it could be from the perspective of they're uneducated as well.
Well, I think the reason people shoot small deer in Michigan is because they don't think there's any big deer, so their scale is shifted down. They think that what we would consider a small deer in their world is a bigger deer. They're like, whoa, that's like 90 inches. When they're not looking at it that, they're like, normally when you ask, okay, there's 2 types of hunters, really. You can tell the ones that care, like deeply care, not just based on if they're a bow hunter or not, but they'll say, oh yeah, it's a 100+ inch deer or 120 inch deer. But if somebody's like, oh, how many points is it? There's people that care about points and there's people that care about inches. And there's a big difference between those two people.
I'm in like a fine line. Like for instance, Ribs out here. He's like a 13 or 14 point.
Yeah.
But he's probably wouldn't score a whole lot past like 118.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he's old, he's mature. We've been following. He's at least 4.
Yeah.
And so in my mind, it's like I don't care about inches. I don't care about points. It's like shoot for age. Like kill the deer that's over 3 years old.
What if there's a freak? What if there's a 2.5 mammoth? It's just like because well,
yeah,
you're
2.5. Imagine what a 2.5 mammoth turns into at 3.5.
Right.
Like, why are you like? This is like the biggest argument, and this is why Iowa, and this is why Kansas, this is why all these states have massive deer, is because that deer gets horny once a year.
Yeah.
And he breeds maybe 2 does, if that. Right?
I actually don't know the
do
stats
bucks
on that.
breed multiple doe?
Yeah, I believe they do.
So he
you
might
have to be thinking about how much they're chasing.
Yeah. So he breeds several doe. Say for instance,
To the internet.
he is now spreading his genetics mixed with a good producer doe, which is going to produce bigger and better bucks. Now, if somebody rubs him off at, wow, that's really bad terminology.
Yeah.
If somebody kills him at 2.5, if somebody kills him at 2.5, there's 2 extra years where he now cannot spread his good genetics. So, case in point, right there. Now, yes, there are some, like there in my mind, there are some instances where a 1.5, 2.5-year-old buck should be removed from the gene pool. If you've got some really funky deer that you can tell have real bad genetics, they've got antlers going off to the side, right, or just crazy stuff like that, and they're management deer, I am all for removing management deer because it all comes, like Colby talked about with us, it all comes down to the doe is huge, apparently.
Yeah.
And the genetics of the buck. And the better genetics you have, it's gonna it helps everything out. So
for the record, 4 to 5 doe per year. 2 to 5.
Ooh.
2 to 5.
Dang.
Yeah. Boy gets around.
The town rapist.
I'd like to know how many miles per screw a buck has to travel.
So the MSU Deer Lab actually tracked that for a while. Like,
really?
They said during the not like the mile per screw, but they tracked how many miles these bucks traveled once the rut hit, and it's significant. It's like 3-4 miles. They completely leave their core areas for that period of time.
That's wild.
It is. It's crazy. So pivoting more towards I'm seeing adults shooting small bucks in the mindset of, well, if I don't shoot it, my neighbor will.
Yeah.
That to me is like a victim mindset in today's
poverty mentality in hunting.
Yes. In today's mindset of just like, if somebody says, well, if I don't shoot it, my neighbor's going to shoot it. Okay, then let your neighbor be that guy. You don't need to be that guy, because if you shoot it, that's going to take a 1.5-year-old out of the gene pool. And then the next 1.5 that walks in front of your neighbor, that one's going to die too. Now we're down 2 potential Boone and Crockett bucks that you wouldn't even know because they didn't even get the potential to show. Like that's...
Right. Well, what are the chances that every buck's going to turn into like a Boone or Crockett?
Not high. Right. But
That's
you will
never
know what that deer's potential is until it gets 2.5 to 3.5 years old. You won't know. But everyone's killing these deer by 2.5 at the very max. So they're shooting deer at a 1.5 or 2.5 years old, and at that point you don't know what that deer's potential is yet. So it's like,
yeah.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, you're right.
You don't, like, I look at photos of deer that we've been following here for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And those deer don't really start to show their character or potential of what they may turn into until year 3.5. And then at year 3.5, you're like, whoa, okay, this deer's got some potential. And if
Right.
if then 4.5, 5.5, 6.5,
Those are the prime years.
those are the prime years.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I will likely kill it if a deer has a lot of potential and it blows up at 4 or 5. I'll probably kill it depending on the area. 4 or 5 years old, 5 maybe is pushing it. I don't think I've ever seen a deer 6 or 7 years old. But it's like that could really, really fix our problem of small bucks in Michigan. If everybody just lets those deer walk, like the amount of, and I don't want to sound cocky, because this is like the disconnect is there's some people's property where the biggest deer that might walk through that property is an 8-point,
Right.
like 108-inch 8-point. That's just the plain and simple of it, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I try to educate people of like those deer are out there. It's just sometimes it takes a while for them to like navigate and migrate into your area.
Right.
And I have passed on from 4 to 7 deer that are in that 100 to 110 inch range this year.
100%. Yeah.
Every day I see them.
Yeah.
Down south, I see them here. We see them here at Ataaso HQ. I take pictures of them. Like as soon as I see when I pull my camera and I take pictures, and I show people at the office. Like I'll like other people that are hunting. They're just like, "You seen anything?" And I'm like, "Yeah, here's photos." And they're like, "Wow, that's a great photo. Well, how'd you get that?" I'm like, I took it with my camera. It's like, "Well, you didn't shoot that?" I'm like, "No." Even.
Do you show them the big ones or no?
I try not to.
Yeah, exactly.
Depending on the situation.
Right.
Because I use it as a learning example. Because even if that was the only buck on this property and there was nothing bigger, I would not shoot it.
Right.
Because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'll hold out for the bigger one." But that's not the point. The point is that deer is going to turn into a bigger deer next year.
Correct.
So why would you end that deer's life 2 to 3 years, 2 years before its actual potential, before even knowing what it's going to turn into?
Right. So do you think, like, it's case by case realistically, because you got, we'll shoot 130-inch deer and be excited about it, or 140-inch deer and like just be absolutely elated, right? But then you got a guy like Shad who's really not batting an eye at anything until it's like 155, 150.
Right.
And he's going to be like, "Oh, yeah, you guys shoot small deer." It's like, well, they're good deer. And I think the people below us, right?
Yeah, is it in tiers? Is it in tiers where it's like guys like us, it's like, "Oh, it's a 135 or it's a 140. If I don't shoot it, somebody else will." Is it just
Well, I have that exact mentality
is it maturing right now.
With the buck that I'm
hunting?
chasing out at Perry right now, GQ, he's like 140 inches, and I thought that exact same thing. I'm like, that is a great deer for that property. If I don't shoot that deer, he's going down this year. Like somebody will, because I know how people hunt in our areas, because I'm getting pictures from people in our area with deer smaller than that are dead. And I'm like, well.
Yeah, our Facebook pages are littered with them.
And once again, in my book, 140-inch deer is a good deer. You're not going to get to that kind of mass until you're 3.5 or 4.5.
Right.
So it's like that deer's made it for quite a few years.
So are we also hypocritical because we're
That's just my question.
Because we're shooting 140-inch deer instead
does it have
of
to be triple digits before it's like deemable a big deer, a small deer? You're just saying like you don't like to see anything under 100 inches shot?
I think that, man, because even like 100-inch buck is still like. This is the weird thing with deer too, is on the hoof, when you're looking at them, they look big.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you actually get up to them and you grab them and you get your hands on them, there's a lot of times that ground shrinkage happens. It's like, whoa, this is not as big as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And I wonder how quickly someone's mindset would change if they held a 130 or a 140 or a 150. Like picture that mindset that you had when you walked up to that deer you shot and you grabbed onto that the antlers, and they're this big around.
It's very different because I've shot some pretty spindly bucks where you grab behind, you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
But like, good deer.
Yeah.
Good deer. But
one that's like a solid mainframe, has mass, have character and stuff like that, it changes the game in your mind, and you're like,
it does.
Oh,
you get a taste of something better.
This is what a mature deer feels like. When you're sucking wind trying to pull them out of the woods, because like that should also be a huge factor too, is like the weight and body size of a deer. Like, to me, you should be embarrassed to shoot a deer that's 90 inches that you're going to get 48 pounds of meat off of. Like, what's the purpose?
So what is, like, inches is not the answer. Pounds is not the answer. Age is not the answer. What is Indiana doing? And what is Iowa doing? And what is Wisconsin doing that, well, maybe not Wisconsin as much. I don't think
didn't they limit it to one buck tag?
Is that all they did?
That would solve a lot, because back to what we were talking about earlier, if you Michigan's biggest, I want to define it as, or describe it as, a cancer. Michigan's big deer hunting cancer.
Cancer's kind of rough. Let's just call it leukemia.
Ooh, I feel like that's heavier.
Is it?
Yeah.
Do you only get that in kids?
No.
Oh, okay.
My mom died of leukemia.
Sorry.
That's yeah. Colon prostate cancer. I think, yeah. So, okay. So the problem.
Call it pancreas. Throw it in my court.
Oof. That's a rough one. Okay. So.
Gramps beat it one time.
That's huge.
Yeah. He had pancreas cancer.
Jeez.
It was the lung cancer that got him. But pancreas cancer. He beat it. Isn't that nuts?
Those Newports for 30 years really.
Grandpa did not smoke.
Anyways. Okay.
That took a turn.
Yep.
Anyways, back to your deer cancer.
The biggest problem in Michigan, and we have touched on this before, is the creation of the combo tag. That in itself lies the root of the issue. Because guys like me, guys like you, guys and girls of all different kinds
and colors
are 90% more likely or more motivated to fill each one of their combo tags with an antlered deer.
Yes.
Than an antlerless deer, because the state has given them that option, which I do not fault them for, because I do it too. If the DNR comes to you and says, hey, guess what? You've got 2 opportunities to kill a buck. Awesome. That's great. I'm going to kill 2 bucks if I get the chance.
Okay, what about this? APR tag in a, like, unrestricted tag. Like a combo, right? Instead of buying it as a combo, you're able to still get 2 buck tags, but your APR tag is, let's say, $20. Your unrestricted tag, $40.
Interesting. I wonder if that barrier of entry would be enough to deter a large demographic of people.
I think it would. I think that extra $20 up front, people are like, oh, I'll just take the $20 tag and I'll shoot
and wait for the bigger one, because like the big problem with the combo tag is you have an antler point restriction, which, for those of you who don't know what the antler point restriction is, it means it has to have 4 points on one side of its head.
Mm-hmm.
And the other side can have whatever. So you could technically have an 8 point with a broken side, completely gone. That's just a half rack with 4 points, and you could shoot it. Now, the other tag that you have is either, it's pretty much not limited to anything. You can shoot any buck with it, any antler deer or any antlerless deer with it, and it works either way. And I think the big problem with that is people that are out there that are hunting no matter where, no matter what, they'll see that first 6 or 7 point or whatever it may be, just decent deer. It might be 80 to 90 to 100 inches, whatever it is. And they get that bug. They get the jitter. They get the, ooh, it's deer season.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, man, this is great. I want that dopamine hit of being able to shoot a deer, and I want to be able to show people online, and I want to be able to take it to the office and, put it in my truck bed. And
I've wanted to shoot deer before just to warm my hands up in them. I got just take one more step. I'm cold. I mean, I was there to kill a deer, but like I really wanted to just to warm up. Like, it's not like it's kind of sadistic, but like, it's a true thing, man. I'm like, please just take one more step.
I'm really scared that that's going to turn out to be our first YouTube short filming these podcasts. I just wanted to keep my hands warm.
Yeah, dude, I was freezing. I'm like, come on, this isn't working for me.
Sounds like you got to invest in some beaver mitts.
No, dude, just kill more deer.
Okay, so back to what I was saying with that is that first 6 point or 7 point that walks in front of them, they want that dopamine hit of being able to harvest a deer. They want that adrenaline rush. They want to be able to show their family. They want to be able to, I think it has nothing to do with like the immediacy of needing food at all.
No, because I don't know. I know very few people. Well, I don't know anybody that just hunts for food, like, because it's a necessity. They do it just because it's like, yeah, that's what we like.
I know quite a few that it comes from a place of, well, just saving money on their grocery bill.
Right.
To make chili and tacos, like everything's ground.
100%. But I don't know anybody that's like, they need that venison. Like you're saying, they need that venison. Otherwise, they're not getting meat.
Right.
Right. Like
So
there's enough pound for pound, like you can go get pork and be pretty close.
So naturally, with the way that tag is structured, they are going to shoot that 6 or 7 point that walks in front of them because they're going to have the mindset of, oh, well, I'm gonna have another opportunity to shoot a bigger buck when it walks by. So if you eliminate the opportunity, or like you're saying, make it more expensive for them to shoot that smaller buck, they're gonna think twice about it, and they're gonna likely shoot a doe first. Like I think even the earn a buck tag might be a stretch.
You reckon? I think the earn a buck tag would be a really good. The earn a buck tag would be good for instant results.
It would be instant results for managing the population.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
You would see bigger buck the next year, more
absolutely.
Buck, bigger buck.
Yep.
But I think it would just cause such a ruckus, and it would put such a barrier to entry. Not barrier to entry. It would put such a damper on the population control because the population is just so big. And if there is that one person that's just shooting their one deer every year because they can afford to shoot one deer and they want the meat. Like if they have to shoot a doe, I think you're just excluding a lot of people from hunting. Well,
that's where you have to offer more donation options for people.
Correct.
If you've got the opportunity to say, here's your earn a buck tag. If you shoot this doe, it can be donated right here, 15 minutes from where you live. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's easy enough. Or you take that one and then you donate the next buck. If you really want to shoot a buck, like if that's your goal, and so many people have that goal, like that's what we do. Like there's something about whitetails that just captivates you because of what they are.
Yeah.
And we chase them and
They're
follow
staples of the North American woods.
Yeah, it's one of the foundation blocks in our country.
Right.
I think
above a moose, above an elk, above everything, like the white-tailed deer sits at the top. It's like a mallard.
Elk is really starting to compete.
Elk is competing because of guys like Jocko and
Rogan
Haynes.
and all of those
elk is
guys.
coming up right now because like it's the pinnacle of the niche, right?
Yes,
absolutely. And it's being highlighted right now. But if you talk about hunting, like okay, when you say deer hunting, you're like white-tailed deer. You say duck hunting, mallard, every time.
Yeah. Yeah, the barrier to entry with elk, way higher.
Correct.
Way
Success
higher.
rate, way lower.
Way higher, way harder.
But even like, something that like out west, if you can have a mule deer too, people aren't thinking about mule deer. They're thinking about the whitetail.
Interesting.
When you say deer hunting, well, and maybe that's just because our demographic where we're from. But like on all the signage that you see, all the posters, all of everything, you think about like a Busch Light can, that they're going to do a promo. It's not going to have a mule deer on it. It's going to have the whitetail buck.
Right.
Once again, maybe demographic because we're in the Midwest, but
Yeah.
they're just so prevalent. There's so many of them, and they are so iconic. They are the crowning, like the whitetail buck silhouette is like the crowning thing above. Like it's the mascot of hunting.
Right. And there has to be a solution to fix them. Like it's almost we have to hit the reset button and rewire everybody's brain in the state of Michigan to like, listen, the opportunity to have bigger deer is so easily attainable.
Correct.
I think so many people see it as like a decade worth of work in management and conservation. And if you use Indiana as a case study, it happened in 1 calendar year.
You could do it in 1 year. People would be upset for the 1 year.
Yep.
And then it would be status quo. You might have a couple people that gripe and complain, oh, we can't kill 2 bucks anymore. Oh, this buck, shoot a doe to get a buck thing. Or, I remember when you could get an unrestricted tag for the same price. You might have a few of those people carrying through, but it really wouldn't impact much past the 1 year.
They would gripe and complain until they shoot a 155. And they're like, oh, wait a second.
And then they tote that thing around town like they're cut the hole in the pants.
Now, here's a question. We had one of our listeners reach out to us on Instagram and made a really interesting point about all of this that I want two really interesting points that I wanted to bring up. One interesting point is with the Patriot hunt and the youth hunt at the beginning of the year, changing it to antlerless only. Because you have two factors there. So one fact,
the kids love the bucks.
But the kids love the bucks. Was that from Elf?
Yeah.
The
like, kids love the books. I'm glad you got that.
Okay, so here's the thing though.
Okay.
Here's the thing.
Listen,
hear me out. Hear me out. The youth hunt, I forget what ages it is. But what he said,
up to 14, I think.
This is what he communicated, and I somewhat agree with it.
12.
With the youth
14.
hunt, you are encouraging kids to shoot bucks.
Yes.
You're instilling that mindset from the get-go of like, hey, we're gonna go after the big buck. We're gonna get you the biggest buck. This is
right.
this is the youth hunt. This is your opportunity to get the big buck. And then all they think about from years to come is big buck, big buck, big buck, big buck. You're not communicating. You're not training them to understand the conservation aspect, population management, all of that stuff. I really think shooting a doe for the first deer for me, I did the youth hunt multiple years.
But wouldn't that be encouraging exactly what we're talking about? Shoot the big buck. Like, go for the big buck.
But it's not. It's never the big buck. It's the 6 point. It's the 7 point. Like, not like big buck in air quotes because...
Right. But what about what deer is too big then for the first deer? Because we talk about that a lot too, where it's like you're tainted.
Yes, but I think you need to have a doe... You need to kill a doe. That needs to be under your belt before you can go after a buck because you get that dopamine hit. You get that excitement of shooting a buck.
Yeah.
And then you never, every time a doe comes out, you
always look at them as lesser.
Yes, exactly.
A mature hunter looks at does.
Like for us, you and I see a doe and we're like, hey, there's way too many of you. We need to, if there's less of you, we have bigger bucks. Kids that are in the woods on a youth hunt don't understand that. They're looking at that doe and being like, oh, it doesn't have antlers. It's not cool.
I hear what you're saying. I can't get on board with it. Solely because it's like, I want the kid to I want the grip and grin. I want the kid to grab the antlers and get the bug. And yeah, like you'll see a kid grabbing and like excited about the doe, but they're still like.
But why can't that happen post?
Because I think about sitting in the blind with my boy, and a buck walks by, and I say, "No, buddy, you can't shoot that." It's like, "Oh heck no!" Like I'm looking at him saying, "Like you're gonna kill that deer, like 100% you're gonna kill that deer." Like I don't care if he wants to kill it and it's a small 6 point. I'm like, "Yep, if that's the deer you want, you're shooting that deer. Or if a big buck, I mean, that would break my heart if a big buck walked by my son for his first hunt or my daughter for her first hunt and I had to tell her no. Oh my gosh, dude. I just couldn't do that. I'd say
what if the DNR allowed that for a person's first harvest? And then because how
are you tracking that though?
The new reporting stuff, they could easily change stuff like that. Because if you think about it, like the youth hunts, like what is it, like 11 through 14? So that's 4 years.
That's true, but like when are you logging? Well, I guess you got to go through hunter safety, but like when are you logged into the DNR system?
Oh yeah, that's true. Maybe not until you have a state ID.
And I won't say who, but I know some people that have well everybody does this, right? Not me, but everybody else does. Where it's just like shooting a deer, like you kill a couple deer and you're like, oh crap, I don't have any tags. And your buddy's like, oh here, I got an extra tag. Like you go out and kill 2 deer in one night and you already burned up all your tags. And your buddy's like, oh yeah, just throw my tag on it. No big deal.
Nope.
Don't do that. It's bad.
It is very bad.
Oh, I can't even make like signals anymore because we got cameras. Don't share tags. Go buy your own. It's good for conservation.
It is. It all goes back. Okay, so here's the other point that the listener made that's I like as well. Is he said the one benefit to the combo tag is, say for instance you have a management buck that is lesser than, kind of gangly, like you really should be pulled out of the gene pool.
Yeah.
If you only have one buck tag, it makes it really hard to shoot that one buck in the name of management, and then all of a sudden you're done for the season and you don't have the opportunity to kill the big one.
Right.
So is that where you work with the state or the DNR to completely eliminate the combo tag altogether with? And it's like an a la carte buffet menu. You have your APR buck, and then you can buy a management buck tag, which is it's limited to bucks that have irregular characteristics. You know what I mean? Like it cannot be typical. It's got to be just like limited, dude, okay. Like in the fine print. Limited, if not limited to antlers that turn at a 90-degree angle.
If they do that in the reporting system, I would in the bill write, it is mandatory that you take a picture of that deer and post it. Yes. Like, dude, Bodie sent me a picture the other day. I got to show you this deer. What do they call him? Corn scoop? Corn scoop. Bodie sent me a picture of a deer the other day on Snapchat of this buck, and it like the top front half of his nose was like gone. Like he had this huge underbite, and his nose was half the length that it should have been. It just dropped straight. I got to get a picture of this deer.
Did he get in an accident or something?
No, it's just how this deer like genetically looked. They call him corn scoop because he literally could have just like put his head in a feeder and like scooped with his bottom jaw.
See, I think that's the huge aspect of.
Here I am on the podcast texting Bodie again.
I think that's the huge aspect of maybe just getting rid of the combo tag, because by having the combo tag, you're opening the door for people to kill a small buck and then wait for the big buck. If the big buck doesn't come, it's okay. They're not going to fill that tag. Whereas,
but like, okay, how do you management tag? How do you like really?
It wouldn't be a management tag. It'd be what you're saying. It's an overpriced second tag.
Yeah,
like the buck, like the second buck tag is double the price.
Open tag,
triple the price.
I'd pay like, okay, if that's it, like
60.
I was gonna say 50.
Okay, so $50.
Yeah, like $50 if you want to get a second buck tag. Sure. So that makes sense to me.
So you pay your $40 for the combo tag, which is an antlerless deer and an APR buck, or none at all. Just you can buy your APR buck, and then you can buy a second buck tag if you want, but it's going to be $50.
Yeah, no, the combo is pretty rough. It's been convenient because it's what I get every year. I walk in, I want a combo tag.
Yeah,
and I've never filled it with $2, but I have shot a buck and shot a doe. And like if I shoot a buck that is, if I'll double check every time. I'm like, okay, can I use my APR tag on this? And if I can, I throw my APR tag because it's like I don't know what's going to walk in front of me next.
You know what I do?
What?
I put my APR tag on it no matter what it is.
Really?
Yep. Because I only shoot APRs.
There you go, buddy.
Like that is like that's the great discipline aspect of it. Like if you have a decent mature 8-point that walks in front of you, like regardless if it's the APR tag or not, like you should not be shooting a buck that's not an APR unless it's a rare case like pick 6 where you've got a 5.5-year-old.
But
or
he did have 4 on one side, so it did work out.
That is true.
Yeah. But like I call him a mainframe 6.
Yeah,
because he was. But
it is
I
rare.
had 4 on one side.
It is rare to find a mature 4.5, 5.5-year-old 6-point. It just does. It's not common. Like it's a very, very, very rare. So, in my mind, it's like there's just got to be some changes made. So it'd be really fascinating for me to sit down with somebody from the DNR and understand why the combo tag is the setup the way it is. And also, I'd like to find out Ohio, Illinois,
Kansas,
and Iowa, Indiana. I would like to know how their tag structure is. Do they have the same kind of combo tag that we do? And if not,
I doubt
why
it.
not?
I don't know very many states that allow you to shoot 2 buck.
Why do we? Oh,
because we have so many deer.
Well, yeah.
Because this is the other thing. I think the DNR is scared to do anything that is going to put pressure against shooting more deer. Because we also are like big advocates of that. Shoot more deer. And it's like,
by giving people the combo tag, though, it's literally saying shoot more bucks.
That's true.
You're buying like they should get rid of the name combo tag and just change it to shoot more bucks. Do you want the shoot more bucks tag? It's $40.
It's $40. Here you go.
It literally is like a $2 tag.
Yeah.
Like I went and I have a combo tag right now, but I went and bought a separate antlerless tag. It's literally a $2 tag.
Right. 100%. That's what I do. I'll literally every year I'll buy a combo tag and an antlerless.
It's like
because I don't ever like because who's going to do that?
Yeah,
who's going to fill their combo tag with a doe?
Nobody.
Well, no, I did last year, but that was because
it's late season.
Late season.
Yeah, exactly.
I shot it late season.
If it's the end of the year and it's coming down to the wire, of course somebody's going to, and there's no bucks around, they're going to shoot a doe and they're going to fill it.
Yeah.
But you will never see somebody fill their combo tag with a doe and a buck in October.
So here's where it's like, put your money where your mouth is. If it came down to it, like, Mr. I only shoot APR, good for you. Would you be the guy to like step out first and start implementing some of the things we preach and say like, I will not shoot a buck until I shoot a doe?
Yes.
Like obviously this year's passed already, but it's like
that it's not that difficult. I think
right.
I think the amount of doe that there are around, like, yes, are they tricky to shoot during the rut? Absolutely, because they're high alert, they're moving,
right.
Everything like that. They're getting chased. But
early season,
late season, early October, like opening day when they're on feeding,
first and second rut,
they're on feeding patterns. Absolutely, right. Like, and that's where the donation aspect comes in.
But like, could you really hang on to the point? Like, let's say you're gonna say I'm gonna be the guy that shoots a doe before I shoot a buck, and the first night you go out and sit in 147-inch deer walks by. Are you? It's like that's what I'm saying.
Man, that's a tough scenario.
It is, but
it
it's
really
like for me, I'm shooting the deer. I'm like, I'll put it on credit. Like, yeah. I'll shoot the doe tomorrow. But like,
okay. Here's the thing.
But like, it needs to be an even ratio.
Instead of the earn a buck tag, what if you purchase the tag? What if they both have to be filled by the end of the season, or else you get fined?
Ooh, I don't like that.
Not fined, but like there's like a charge, like it's I don't know, some kind of charge back or something.
You lose your hunting rights forever. No, I hear you.
Or they carry over. They carry over to the next year. So like you kill one, you buy your combo tag, you have to kill a doe to earn your buck tag or whatever, and your buck tag's activated, so you fill it. You don't kill a doe that year, it carries over. So now you got to kill 2 doe the next year.
You just did a ton of deer debt.
Exactly.
Yikes.
Deer debt is at an all-time high. You got guys that are racking up 15, 16.
Dude, I just got to go cull something. I don't know, man.
Get a minigun.
Smoking them with their trucks. Yeah.
No, I really don't know what the solution is.
I do really like that idea of the pricier unlimited tag. Just make it
So you're saying eliminate the combo tag altogether with.
Eliminate
gone.
the combo tag and say you have 3 options. Antlerless, $20, $15, whatever it is this year. I don't even know. Antlerless, APR for $30, and an unrestricted tag for $50.
Yeah. And it's better for conservation. The amount of money that's going back into it,
because the guys that are going to be buying the unrestricted tags are going to be getting your kids into hunting. The guys that are wanting to do management deer and cull whacked out bucks.
But there's also going to be guys like us that might have 2 shooters on their property and they want to shoot both of them.
Right. And they're going to be willing to pay the money into it.
Pay 50. Absolutely.
That's the solution.
Are you willing to pay $50 to have a potential shot at another 146?
I need a lobbyist to talk to. That's the solution. That's how we do it. Because nobody really likes the shoot a doe to earn a buck. Nobody you throw it would work. Nobody likes it. But just make it like that. $20, $40, or 20, 30, 50.
I go back and I stand on the pedestal that I said the combo tag is the cancer of the deer world. I agree with that. That is 100%.
Put it on a t-shirt.
Ooh, boy. And then send it to the DNR. That is exactly why we have small bucks in Michigan.
Yeah.
Is strictly tied towards the lack of does being killed in the combo tag. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem. Where's the solution?
Eliminate the combo tag.
Yep.
Create a tiered system.
Ugh. We keep coming up with these great solutions, but it involves a ridiculous amount of legwork to even accomplish.
Just call Joe Biden. He'll take care of it.
Sure he will.
Bet your Gretchen Whitmer cares about this too.
Come on, man. The deer got Kevlar vests, man.
The deer got Kevlar vests.
That's why the population's so bad.
Good thing I have an AR-15.
This is where we need to get Uncle Ted on board, and Uncle Ted can go crack some skulls.
I doubt him and Gretchen get along.
Doubtful. Wait, does this have to get past her?
Oh gosh, no. Thank goodness. Yeah, no. But we do got to go to the deer.
Okay, so what I'm gonna start with before we dig into this any further is I think I'm gonna go. I want to go onto the DNR website for Iowa, Kansas, Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, maybe Kentucky.
Kentucky got big deer?
Maybe not.
Okay.
All of those states and find out how their tag structure is right now.
I want to know their tag structure
for resident and non-resident.
How many people are just saying it's because they got corn? Okay, we got that around here.
No, that's not it. Corn doesn't grow big antlers.
Corn grows big antlers.
Nah. It's protein, minerals, it's all of that stuff.
It's just corn.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why baiting's illegal.
Yeah.
Baiting.
That's why Michigan has small bucks,
ban.
because we can't bait and feed deer. That's the problem right there.
Right.
That is where it's at.
Feed deer. No more.
So instead of eliminating the combo tag, we're going to go and petition for being able to put piles of corn out, because that is the magic antler dust.
Dude, we could totally get Speedway to back us on that. And Tractor Supply.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Farm and Fleet.
Dude.
Walmart.
The bags of sugar beets and apples and carrots. And they're like, we don't know what these are for, but...
every retailer.
50-pound bags of them apparently this time of year.
Can
just
you imagine
happen to have a surplus.
The pallets in Costco and Sam's Club? Let us know what you guys think on this. This is a topic that really gets us fired up as far as why we don't have big deer. And I hate the BS of, well, if I don't shoot it, my neighbor will kind of thing.
Right.
If you think this is a good solution, if you know a lobbyist, if you have contacts, let us know. Reach out so we don't have to do our own digging. But I think this is a big thing. This is a huge step in the right direction of potentially fixing a problem. Now, I'm not saying if you're up in Copper Harbor and Munising and way, way up in the UP that you guys are going to all of a sudden have big deer. Because that's never going to happen.
They don't have corn, Caleb. Yeah. But they do have speedways, so...
We'll just ship the corn up to you. So it's a 2-part problem. Combo tag and baiting. Oh my gosh.
If by the end of this we still retain our rights to hunt.
What a doozy for our first one being filmed. YouTube's going to love this.
Oh my god.
You're going to get a call from the DNR. Guys, thanks again for tuning in today. We appreciate it. Like I said, interact with us in the comments. Shoot us a message on Instagram or on the website if you have thoughts, anything like that. We're at AtaasoOutfitters.com. That's where our merchandise is at. We got hats, sweatshirts, hoodies, all of that stuff. And then Ataaso.outfitters is our Instagram. That's where we push our content out there. Whenever we're...
Hey, you've been posting some really nice pictures lately of deer.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Yeah, you want to know why? Because I'm not shooting them.
Like, you just...
Shoot here. I really need to do like a t-shirt that says shoot little bucks with a telephoto lens, not a weapon. Plain and simple. So learn and do likewise. Guys, we'll talk to you later. Have a great night. Peace. I hope that worked.
With the video? Or, like, did the people actually get the point?
Who knows? All I know is my blood pressure feels a little bit better.
Yeah. It's a little steamy in here.
Bye, guys.